that void, you see, we set up these two great circles, the time circle and the space circle, and we notch them all the way around, and we use these concepts, which are really in our heads, as constants by which we regulate all sorts of events. When you lose sight of the conventionality of these things, because you are absorbed in details and have become unconscious of the totality, you begin to invest emotions in them. You may, for example, go to a game of some kind, football, basketball, but as it progresses and you become more absorbed in the back and forth of the game, your emotions begin to be affected. And that's what happened to us when we were born. We got into a gaming room. And it was only a game, but we begin to take it all terribly seriously. And each one of us is given a part in the game. And people tell us who we are. We're from babyhood up. They say, this is the way you are. It's not like you to do a thing like that, you see? As your mother says to you. And all through life we begin to build up this precious identity, which is our part in the game. And so we get a tremendous emotional investment in this identity. One of the greatest hoaxes in this whole thing is the future. You can come to the no opinion, to the ground, underneath, and experience that, which is as good, if not better, than falling in love. And its fortunes on a kind of game, you know, like the old-fashioned snakes and ladders, when you land on a certain square and you have to go back and so on. All this absorbs us. And then finally we discover that the props that we've all put together to constitute this identity are wearing out. And we're not able to keep up this identity. And gradually we get old and we begin to fail. And then there's all this thought that, well, it's too bad, it's all over. And because we've got bamboozled into thinking the future is what we're responsible for and what we're supposed to live for. And that we say of a thing which we don't think is any good, it has no future. Now, when you contrast that, which is absolute common sense to most people living in the Western world, it's the future we've got to work for. Contrast that with the Indian, Hindu, Buddhist idea of time, wherein which they feel that in the course of time, everything falls apart. And that therefore, there is nothing to be hoped for from the future. Now, they would say to us, isn't that obvious to you? Because after all, don't you see that all organisms, all entities whatsoever, fall apart in the end? Some go fast, some go slow. And we say to them, oh, you poor Hindus, the trouble with you is that you don't have any technology, you have a terrible economy, most of you are starving, you think life is just terrible, and therefore you have a pessimistic view of it. Well, that makes them laugh themselves silly. We know who we really are. And you poor Westerners, you're bug-eyed. You rush around with long noses. You're quite mad. But you live for the future.